In this video, you will learn about the life and work of a German artist named Otto Dix. How the war affected his mental health and why he was hated by Hitler. Enjoy the video. An avant-garde artist and harsh satirist, German painter Otto Dix survived 2 world wars. He tried his hand at expressionism, became part of the new Materiality association, and created his own unique style. Contemporaries highly appreciated his portraits in a grotesque style. In the 1920s, he was commissioned by journalists, doctors, lawyers, poets, and even painters. He was characterized by accuracy, foresight. The second important motif of his work are storylines about the human condition, moral and physical experiences. On his canvases you can feel the pain of cripples who survived the wars, the storm of emotions of murderers and sadists, disease, debauchery and shamelessness of sailors and night butterflies. His works balance on the edge of the acceptable, cause a sense of shock, fear, the desire to hide. He conveyed the reality of the era, the abundance of people with mutilated souls, bodies, which in post-war Germany was very much. Of the author's iconic paintings can be noted War, Self-Portrait with a Palette. Curious Enough, Portrait of Lawyer Dr. Fritz Glaser, and Portrait of Journalist Sylvia von Harlen. The artist counted himself among the realists. While the avant-gardists were at the height of their popularity, he was interested in reality, people, landscapes, and emotions, which he captured. Even if there were trenches, the consequences of explosions, maimed people, he considered it his duty to write this reality. The artist went through the First World War from the first to the last day, although his friends sought to accuse him of indifference to politics. If he wrote, he spoke about the war cynically, without pathos, heroism and triumph. At the age of 20, Dix wrote to a friend that he was inspired by the works of Nietzsche and Goethe, the Bible, but most of all by nature. He was born in a village to a seamstress mother and a foundryman father, but managed to move to the bustling Dresden and become a student at the School of Arts and Crafts. Thanks to incredible natural data and a remarkable talent, which was visible to all, with Dix even did not take tuition, and even assigned a scholarship. He visited the gallery, read books, and absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Very soon the first self-portrait will appear, inspired by the paintings of Albrecht Dürer. Studying the Northern Renaissance and its representatives, Dix searched for his style in painting and the frightening realism that would characterize his paintings. By the outbreak of World War I, many creative people voluntarily went to the front, inspired by the ideas of change. There were also those who simply succumbed to the spirit of patriotism. Dix was neither one of the former nor the latter. He fought because war was a reality of his time. As a realist, he felt it was necessary to experience these emotions personally and see the horror of war with his own eyes. His compatriots were looking for feats, and the artist himself learned what is dirt, hunger, and pain. For 4 years of war, Dix had to fight in France, Flanders, Belarus. He saw with his own eyes, and the most terrible battle on the Somme, when the first tanks went into action. In the days between battles he drew. His family sent him materials and food, and he received canvases back. When he returned to the rear, he frightened his relatives with stories about how he used the bayonet with a sense of pleasure, destroying the enemy. To his own girlfriend in 300 letters he described hunger, dirt, bullets, and endless victims of war. However, these letters were written in the utopian language of Esperanto, not German. After being wounded in the head and neck, Dix spent a lot of time in hospital. Having gone through the whole war first almost to the finale, the artist came back in one piece physically, but not morally. He would hide his own heartache under a mask of cynicism. The desire to paint was his best medicine. 1920s. Dix learned what happiness and resounding success meant. The Karl Narrendorf Gallery decided to sign the artist. At the Dresden Art Academy, he became a professor. Add to this the participation in the Berlin exhibitions of the Dada Club, the invitation to the Prussian Academy, the opportunity to be part of the new matter. Not related to Bohemian society, who did not know what wealth is, the artist was given the opportunity to travel all over Germany. He was considered a talented portraitist, whose work was eagerly ordered. The frantic pace of inflation imposed its imprint. At times the fees were depreciated before the work was finished. There were also blunders, when the Cologne Museum rejected a work already painted, after again wants to buy it back. Some of the artist's paintings were so scandalous that he was sued. He is accused of vulgarity, but the hype around the name only increased the popularity of Dix. Difficult, not very pleasant in communication artist changed when he met his chosen one. He was not even embarrassed by the fact that she was married. Martha Koch quickly received a divorce from her spouse, who had long experienced feelings for her own sister. The shared children would remain with her ex-husband, who would also become Dix's friend. The Koches and Dix are now practically one big family. Going to the customer in another city, the artist writes tender letters to his wife. Very soon the couple had 3 children in common, who would often appear in Dix's portraits. Having learned love, creative freedom and demand, having achieved recognition, the artist regularly exhibits works at personal exhibitions in Germany and the United States. Financial prosperity allowed him to feel more confident. And yet he thinks about war, the mortality of living beings and people. Canvases, war prints, the premonition of a new catastrophe pressed on Dix, while the patriotic impulses of his compatriots prevented them from seeing the real essence of the Reich. With the coming to power of the Nazis for Dix began difficult times. He lost his professorship and was banned from writing in his favorite grotesque style. Dix was included in the list of the most dangerous artists in the country. He learned what it is, searched and destroyed his work. For the safety of his children and wife, he left Dresden and moved with his family to a village near Switzerland. Here the artist writes a series of landscapes. In one of the paintings, depicts Hitler as a child who took offense, conveying the idea of one of the most dangerous sins, envy. By 1934, the clouds began to thicken more, and the works of the artist began to be withdrawn from museums. Some of his paintings are destroyed altogether. Dix no longer wants to see war, but in 1945 he is drafted into the army. Despite his age, he is already 54. Very soon he will be a prisoner of war and will be released only a year after the victory. Post-war Germany was divided into 2 parts. While in the western part the abstractionists were gaining fashion, in the East, the value system was changing, propaganda and restrictions were becoming stronger. Despite the title of honorary member of several art academies, regular exhibitions, to find himself in the changed Germany Dix could not. Time will pass, the artist will celebrate his 60th birthday, and he will be appreciated again. Critics will publish 2 books about his work. Connoisseurs and museums will be ready to pay huge royalties for his works. Even in moments of difficulties, doubts, restrictions, he did not leave his country. Most likely, also for the reason that he could not take all his relatives and friends with him. Having chosen the FRG with his family as his permanent place of residence, Dix could only go to the GDR alone. The money that was paid in the GDR could not be used in the FRG. In Dresden, too, there were many things that kept him there. After all, he had a second family there. Mistress in the traditional sense of Kate Koenig was not. Dix for 30 years maintained a relationship with her, became the father of her daughter. To support his second wife and daughter, the artist created a system of communication through friends. For many years, the legal wife did not even realize that her husband has a second family, having learned about the rival only a couple of months before the death of Dix. Dix lived 78 years. As a young man, having studied the works of the Dresden Gallery, he did not consider his own life difficult and realized that wars, lust for power, envy, violence, lust, always ruled mortal men. All this he tried to convey to people on his own canvases. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Please, if you liked this video, put a like and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you soon.